All right. Well, yeah, Lindsay, you can go on and introduce yourself. Everybody who's on kind of knows the drill, that they'll get an email after this and all of that. But if you guys have questions, you're more than welcome to ask those. If you feel more comfortable chatting those, you can do that as well. And we'll kind of go through. All right.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to be here today. I have been volunteering for a while with Dress for Success. I think it's like close to a year now, and I usually meet with folks to talk about sort of interview preparation and first impressions. So I also really like goals and goal setting. And in fact, here in my home office, I have a bulletin board and a whiteboard and post-it notes that all have different goals that I'm working on and breakdowns of those. So anyway, it's something that I really like talking about. It's really fun for me. I have some slides that will kind of talk through and explain what a SMART goal is, and then a couple of slides where I give like an example of another kind of real life example of how to use SMART goals, and then some ways you can take it further to implement. So if you have questions or ideas or something that you want to share throughout, please jump in because I'd love to hear your thoughts and insights as well. So we'll start talking about SMART goals. So SMART is an acronym. So it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. So it really just helps you take a goal and get specific enough with it that you can achieve it and implement it. Sometimes we face a challenge when we make a goal because we're too vague and we don't have specific identifiable outcomes. And then it's a lot harder to achieve. For example, I said that I wanted to get better at yoga. And that's kind of been a goal of mine, but that's difficult to achieve because I haven't really identified exactly what that means. Get better at it, identify a specific like yoga pose that I want to master, or is it about being consistent with like daily practice or weekly practice? So I actually decided to nail that down. It's one of the goals that I have hanging on my bulletin board of what it means to me to get better at yoga. And I created a 6-week plan and how often I was going to do it and things like that. So that's where being specific with your goal can help you get clear about what you need to do next. So we'll talk through some of these elements. Measurable means that there's a specific way to measure if you've made progress or not. So a lot of these slides use an example of earning a college degree. So if you wanted to have a measurable goal for that, it would be completing 120 credit hours. And you would know if you've hit those benchmarks or not, because you would be able to see how many credits you've completed. In the case of my yoga example, I would need to make something measurable, like I will do yoga 3 times a week for 6 weeks, and then I can see whether I'm actually meeting those kind of mileposts or not. So you want to have some way to measure that you're making progress on the goal. You want it to be specific, so using precise language. This example is to earn a 4-year college degree in business administration. So it's not just I would like to earn a degree. It's a specifically 4-year degree, and you've identified a major. It's a lot easier to take a next step to apply. For example, if you know what program you want to apply for, you have to get specific first. Achievable. This is a list of actions that you know you need to take to achieve the goal. So in the case of a college degree, if you want to get a good GPA, you need to attend every lecture, you need to spend time studying, you need to turn assignments in on time. And this applies to any goal you have. Maybe it's something as simple as reorganizing your pantry. You're probably going to make a mental list, if you don't write it down, of saying you need to take everything out, wipe down the shelves, sort the different boxes and cans into categories so that you can put them back in an orderly fashion. Sometimes this happens automatically as we're thinking about what we're trying to do. But when it comes to a big goal, like in your career or your education, writing all those things out is really helpful, because that list of achievable actions can get rather long. And then realistic. You want to make sure that the goal that you're setting is achievable. Um, if I make the goal too big, or I create too much to achieve in too short a period of time, I will defeat myself before I can achieve it. You don't want to get overwhelmed with how big these action items are, or in creating too short of a deadline to complete them, because then you won't make progress, or you'll feel overwhelmed and you'll give up. So it also, you kind of have to have some of the resources to achieve it. So in this example, if you have a high school diploma, then you can apply to a four-year college. And if you identify ways within your personal life and your work schedule that you can focus on studies, you have created a structure in which it's realistic for you to be able to achieve a college degree. And then the timely part, it's creating a deadline or having a specific time frame in which you want to achieve the goal. And that's important because it's a bit of a motivator and accountability. If you didn't set a deadline to graduate in 4 years, you might take classes part-time. And sometimes that's the best way for people, but then you could find yourself going to school for 8 years or 10 years before you finish the degree. So setting a timeline can keep you motivated to take more steps and move forward. So after you've kind of identified your goal and you've described it and thought it out using those kind of SMART guidelines, there are a few things you can do to take it to the next level. One thing that I like to do is then make a detailed task list, including everything that you'll need to do, breaking it down into the smallest chunks and giving it a time period, like how long it will take. So, you know, for a college degree, that's a big goal. So breaking it down into semester by semester, what needs to happen, which classes will you need to take, and then within the weeks in that semester, breaking it down into how many hours a week you need to be in class and how many hours a week you need to set aside for studying, for example. And it's just like I said, breaking that out over time to kind of plan out the whole period that you want to work towards achieving that goal, and scheduling time in your calendar to complete each step. So I created an example that I wanted to share with you on how you might apply this to something in your life. And then as we go through that, be thinking about something that you want to achieve, a goal that you have. And I'd love to take some time, if you are open to it, for you to share goals. And then maybe we could brainstorm some ways that you could get clarity and identify some of your task lists that you need to work on to move forward towards that goal. So in this example, I focused on growing my connections on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a great tool for business networking. It has been super helpful to me in my career and in my pursuit of volunteering and working with nonprofits as well. So let's say that you want to grow your LinkedIn connections because it might help you if you're looking for a job or you want to change jobs in the future, or just to get to know people. So to get specific about it, I said I want to grow connections by 20 quality connections, and I want to post twice a week to improve those relationships so people see me showing up when they log on to LinkedIn. So then to make it measurable, I'm going to say I'm going to post twice a week, comment on 4 posts, and add 2 new connections, meet 2 new people on LinkedIn. Make it achievable. I'm going to make sure I schedule time each week to plan out what I want to post, and to kind of schedule that time to connect and to comment. I'm keeping my expectations of myself reasonable because this goal needs to be realistic. And I'm not going to be a person that will get on LinkedIn and post every single day. And so I know that about myself. I'm going to make my goal reasonable and say twice a week. And so to kind of set a time limit on it, I'm going to do this for 10 weeks. After those 10 weeks, I should have 20 new connections and have posted to my network 20 times. So everyone I know will have seen me show up if they're logging in, and I will know 20 new people that I can reach out to and stay engaged with. Then I wanted to take that to the next level. So I've identified the goal. I want to grow my LinkedIn by 20 new connections, and I want to post on a regular basis so that people get to know me. Then I make a detailed task list. So this isn't exhaustive, but it's just an example. So what do I need to do to make this happen? I need to be prepared with something to post about. So I can set aside 30 minutes a week to like read some business articles and look for topics that I might want to share my thoughts about or things I can share. And then I can think of, if I want to add 2 new connections a week, I need to make a list maybe of people that I want to invite to connect with me that I'm not already connected to. Maybe think through people I remember from prior jobs or other, from high school or things like that, and see if I can find them, add. Another thing I could do is ask other connections to make introductions for me. So I actually just had that happen 2 weeks ago. I was talking to a friend, mentioned something I was looking to get involved in, and then she sent a LinkedIn message to that person to introduce me, and now we're connected. And then I would also need to make time to post comments on some of my connections shares so that they see me engaging with what they're doing on LinkedIn. It says 30 minutes, maybe a week aside for that. And then to take it even deeper, you go ahead and schedule it. So, maybe Sundays is a good time for me to be on my phone, looking online and saving some things that I can post a couple times during the week. And the Monday and Wednesday before I start my work day, I can share one of those posts and add a couple of comments to people I'm connected with. And then on Fridays, I'll send messages to people I know to see if they can make introductions for me. So that's where you take that general goal of I want to grow my LinkedIn connections and make it very specific, create action items to make it happen and set a time frame to keep you on track. So this is the chance for you to take a few minutes to think about a goal you'd like to achieve and write it down. And I'd love to have you guys share your goals and what you're thinking of doing. It could be anything from organizing your pantry to earning a college degree and anything in between. So take a few minutes and think about something that you'd like to achieve and that you'd be willing to share with us and chat about. If anybody has any thoughts or is stuck and wants to talk it out, please feel free to unmute. Does anybody have a goal they'd be willing to share with the group? It's a small group, so the stakes are low.
I have one. I would like to complete and submit my work-based practicum by the end of this week to get approval. It's something that I have been procrastinating getting done, but last week I was writing down steps that I need to take in order to chunk it out so it doesn't seem so overwhelming. But I would like to go ahead and get it finished and completed by the end of the week on Friday by 5 o'clock.
That's a great one. It's nice too because the time frame is short. It'll be very easy to see if you're on track and to hold yourself accountable to that. I like that you said chunk it out because I think that is a really important piece of it, which is, it's another way, kind of a clearer way to describe making a task list. But yeah, sometimes if you can just write down what are all the different pieces of this that I need to complete and how long is that going to take me, it can help you take some forward action and not feel as overwhelmed. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else have one they'd like to share? Well, I'm going to go back a couple slides. So as you're thinking about this, this is kind of like the basic outline of how I like to kind of implement and identify my goals. So once you've got the goal in mind, try to get really clear using that SMART layout. It doesn't have to be like each letter that way, but just think about, as you write down the goal, try to be as specific as you can and put not only the time you want to achieve it, make sure it's realistic, and then think about like how specific is it? Am I really clear about what, if I'll know once I've achieved this or not? And then once I'm really clear about that, that's when you can make the detailed list. I say the more detailed you can make it, the better. So in my example of growing my LinkedIn connections, I could get really specific about how I want to comment and engage, because that's an important piece with LinkedIn, is not just adding connections, but adding some value to those connections. So it's more of a relationship. And I could say, I'm going to comment on people whose last names start with A and B on Tuesday, and C and D on Wednesday, and maybe go through the alphabet like that, so that I feel like I've engaged with everyone in my list by the end of 14 weeks. Or you could get really specific about the kinds of things you want to post about. Maybe I would like to only share posts or thoughts about leadership and nonprofits. And I could get really specific about types of things I want to research, the kinds of publications I'd be willing to share. You can get really specific, and that might overwhelm some people, but then for some of us, it actually takes a lot of the hard work out of it. When it comes to that time that I need to post, I don't have to spin my wheels for 30 minutes trying to come up with something. I know that I have 2 specific topics, and I can just research that and then not get overwhelmed with the multitude of choice. So once you've got that detailed list, whatever your goal is personally, then you can chunk that out and make it something that happens over time. So if the goal is to achieve that project by Friday at 5 p.m., and you have a detailed list, you know how long everything's going to take, and you can say, okay, if all this stuff together is going to take 10 hours, I can do this, 2 hours a day. Well, it's Tuesday, so actually that math doesn't work, but that will help you figure out how much do you need to do each day to get there on time. All right, now that you've had a little more time, does anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Any other tricks you use when you're setting goals or trying to hold yourself accountable?
This is Carmen. Yeah, I've got some ideas that are stirring based on what you are saying. And let's see here. Yes, so I have some personal goals aside from my professional goals. And since I'm in the job search mode, sometimes my professional goals seem to try to overtake all of my time. Like I almost feel guilty if I'm not spending more and more time in the job search area. But for me, this is going to be helpful in setting aside specific percentage of my time each day for some of my just personal goals. And as you guys are saying, I'm not sure if it's the same thing, but making that certain percentage, breaking that down into certain chunks, as far as, okay, I might not be able to accomplish the whole thing this week, but my plan is to accomplish just a certain part of that goal this week and feel okay about that, and set aside another part of that same goal that I'm going to work on next week and feel satisfied with my progress.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think you're calling out an important part of it, which is when you make that list of the different ways you can divide out the steps, then it gives you a sense of accomplishment. But it's not like you haven't completed the goal yet. Instead, you feel like, awesome, I completed this first step for that goal. It makes you feel a lot better. And especially when you have competing things for your time, like in the job search, I have been there and can relate. It does feel like if you're not at all times looking for an opportunity and applying for something, there's some guilt. But also, if you don't give yourself a break and give yourself an opportunity to do something that gives you personal fulfillment and satisfaction, you're going to burn yourself out. So I think it's really smart that you're adding those personal goals as a priority.
Yeah, thank you, especially after coming off the holiday.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything they'd be willing to share? Okay, well, I know that we're going to send this PowerPoint out. I have a couple of other little resources, Tiffany, that I'll send to you that I've kind of compiled over time, I guess, for lack of a better word, that might add some additional clarity for some of these. But I would just say that I think the takeaways that I would encourage is to, once you've identified a goal, sometimes those goals can be really big and they can feel daunting or overwhelming, and making it into smaller achievable chunks that go into that bigger goal is a way that, for me, it's made it a lot easier to move forward, because, as we've said, even completing one step towards that goal is an achievement. And if you know what the plan is, it's a lot easier to feel really encouraged and motivated. Well, I appreciate being able to talk with you. It's nice to meet you all. And I guess, I don't know, Tiffany, I'll turn it back over to you, or do we just wrap up?
No, that sounds good. Does anybody have any questions for Lindsay before we go?
Lindsay, is there a specific, let's see here, the timing, how to work with the timing, even if it's a longer process, let's say like the 4-year mark? Did you talk about how to keep going with the process so you don't just set the time frame, it's going to be about 4 years, and then kind of just let it fizzle out?
It's a good question. And I think some of that honestly will come from trial and error of seeing what works for each person. I think that idea of breaking it down into smaller timeframes still applies. So, if you want to complete the degree in 4 years, that is 8 semesters. So then break that down and then say, during these months, I need to complete, 15 credit hours, and I need to spend this many hours a week on classes and studying. So you just keep taking the big goal and breaking it down into smaller pieces, and then planning the the next step. Maybe it's week by week or month by month. And I think that is something you can do, like on a poster board that you hang on your wall, so that you can see the whole big picture, and you can check items off as they go, or in a notebook. When I did my master's degree, I actually used like a piece of pretty scrapbook paper, and I wrote every class that was in my master's degree, and I then divided it by the semesters, and I hung it on my refrigerator. And every time, I made progress, I would like check mark that course off as complete. And that visual that I saw every day actually really helped me keep my eye on the big picture, even when I was really tired of doing homework.
Yeah, I can relate to that with a set that as well too, with school courses. When it's already planned out, you're going to start with this one and end with that one. I think sometimes where my goal setting kind of fizzles out is like when I make a vision board toward the beginning of the year, and I've got all of these great plans, and somewhere along that year I kind of forget about the step by step. So maybe like with what you're saying, even with a vision board, I could have those specific things on my board listed out, and then the steps that go along with accomplishing those written out in a way that I can kind of mark off how close I am on actually accomplishing that goal, so that I don't give up or just kind of let it go 6 months, 8 months into it.
Yeah, I think the specific action items on a vision board makes sense. It's one way that you might consider doing that, that I did one year that really worked for me, is I took the vision that I had for the year, and then I actually wrote, I still use paper planners because I use my calendar on my phone, but I just really like the act of writing down in pencil and seeing a month at a glance. So I paper planner. So I went through every week at the beginning of the year and wrote down a thing I needed to do that week to get me to, and that, I will say that year I kind of still fizzled out, but it kept me on track longer, I think, than it would have if I didn't have that weekly reminder of that bigger annual goal that I had. So I was able to see. And then, sometimes you adjust the vision. Sometimes the goal morphs as you start working on it, and you realize that maybe how you'd identified it wasn't actually what it needed to be. And the act of trying to work towards it, you see what you need to change.
I'm totally agreed. Yeah, because I'm kind of I like to use like weekly planner. Yeah, you have to like write on the paper, and yeah, every day you review it and you can know, oh, that's my like weekly plan or monthly plan. Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you so much. Yeah, because normally I like to just sometimes every day write to-do list, maybe in the day, the night before. Yeah, just write, oh, tomorrow, what do I need to do? And every day, like, just delete it. Yeah, check, like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just break a big stuff into like several chunks. That will be totally, helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One other thing I like is and then it's easy to just do the most fun things that are on that list. So at the top of my daily planner, sometimes there are not 3, but I try to identify the top 3 things I need to get done that day. And those have to be the priority. And then all the other stuff can come after. And just identify as you start your day, what, at the end of the day, the most important thing that I complete is this. And that, or weekly, you could do that too. By the end of this week, thing I need to do most is this, and it's probably related to whatever your big goal is.
Yeah, great idea.
Thank you guys for letting me chat with you today. I get really excited about goals. So like I said, Tiffany, I'm going to send you a few other resources that you could share out if that is okay with the group, on things that I've used to help me as I've set goals for myself and resources that I really like. So.
Is that possible? You can share your email address?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Okay. It is, I was like, can I add to the slide real quick? That way.
Maybe just write in the chat box.
Yes, the chat. Of course. I think, here we go. All right, there's my email. Yeah, feel free if you want to chat offline about goal setting, or if you have questions, when this slides come out, there's something I can clarify, please email me. I'd love to be helpful in any way. And I'd like to make a new connection and add each other on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, thanks so much. Thanks, Tiffany, for letting me come chat with the group today. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll send this out once I get the PowerPoint from Lindsay. Liz will send that out to you guys. Tomorrow's session is navigating the hiring process. Same time, it's 10 o'clock. We'll do another one of these PowerPoints. Navigating the hiring process, super cool because we go through every part of applying for the job, getting your resume seen, getting it looked at more, references, kind of all of that stuff. It's this really cool, unique book that we usually give out when we're in person, but we do have a link that we'll be able to share with you guys tomorrow if you guys are on that call, so you can have that booklet as well. But there's a lot of neat stuff in there, so I'm excited about tomorrow's session as well. And then in that email that Liz is going to send out with the PowerPoint, there'll be that link to sign up for tomorrow's class if anyone's interested. There'll be the YouTube channel. It takes me a little bit to get these sessions downloaded and then uploaded into YouTube, but if it's not there today, it'll definitely be there by Friday. And then the last thing I wanted to say is Liz is going to send out a second email about a survey. The survey is completely anonymous. It just allows us to continue to get grant money and funding money to be able to continue to do these workshops for free. So if you haven't already done the survey, if you mind taking a couple seconds just to fill that out. We will offer a $5 gift card if you do the survey, a $5 gift card of your choice. Liz will put in there the places that we offer it to, but we can get you that emailed once you're doing it. So if you guys have any questions, let me know, but hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.